Good morning. This is Regina Adams coming at you with another busted but blessed Big Mama love message. I was trying to get my timelines right and I couldn't get it right, so I just had to start over because I don't know how to do all the other stuff yet. So, anyways, what I was saying was that um, I had lost my job in '96, and even before then, I had started paying my tithes. I actually was, it was like in January, I was speaking to a friend of mine who had moved to Atlanta. And she said, "Oh, I hadn't paid my tithes. In like 3 weeks, I got to get back to it." I'm like, "Ooh, pay your tithes." She said, "Yeah." And for me, I was like, I had never, I heard about it in church, been going to church my entire life, but working as an adult, um, I had never paid my tithes. And she said that to me at the time when I had been going to, I lived in Oxnard. On Wednesday and Saturday nights, I'd drive out to Los Angeles, go to Little J's, party. And then, of course, even Saturday night, getting up early Sunday morning, going to church. But there was one Saturday I was at the club, and I was like, there's got to be more to life than this. And a few days later, a friend of mine said um, that to me about paying my tithes. And I said, okay, let me try that. And so I started paying my tithes and, going to church, pay your tithes. You think everything's going to work out right, right? Nope. Lost my job, lost my place, lost my car. I was staying with a person I thought was a friend at the time. And I remember several months later, I was at church because even though I wasn't working, I started becoming active in church because I wanted to know about God in a way I had never known him before. And so I always knew how to pray. During that time, I received the gift of being able to speak in tongues in the intimate moments. I was talk to God. And I remember being at church I had been at for 20 years. My mother was married and buried at the church. Several family members buried at the church. Several close friends and god sisters married at the church. And so being at that church, there was a prophetess that came from Florida, and we were having like a noonday prayer meeting. It wasn't like I think it was a Thursday morning or Thursday. It was a Thursday, I believe. And as I'm praying, again, this is back in '97 early. As I'm praying, I have my eyes closed and I see a dark spirit walk up to next to me and stand next to me while I'm in church. And I start crying and praying even harder because I'm thinking that dark spirit is me. And that back in '97 was before we knew about other spiritual gifts you can gain by being in God's will, or even, maturing enough to be able to not be afraid to receive those gifts. So, as a result of me crying and praying, this prophetess from Florida goes, "Oh, see, when God shows you who you are, you need to acknowledge it. It's time to do an open rebuke." And they brought me to the front of the church, and everybody got to basically tell me everything I did wrong or I was doing wrong. One of the things I was doing wrong was in prayer meeting. I was praying too long. This one lady said that because I remember when we were at a Wednesday evening service, and we had to stand up to do prayer, and she came up and I asked her had she been drinking because she smelled like alcohol, even though she had a peppermint in her mouth. And she looked at me and she was like, no. And then she went and did something else and came back and finished standing up at the front of the line praying, and it smelled like praying, and it smelled like she had just come back from happy hour. She was the one that criticized me for praying too long. I had other people criticize me for things that they felt inadequate about in the spirit, and they were totally crushing my spirit. And then at the end of the rebuke, the Bible, the word says, restore such a one. I got $106. That's what they gave me to restore me after they completely attempted to demolish my faith. A few months later, I was in a different place, and I was laying down, and God showed me. And what happened was I was laying on a couch. I was laying on the couch, and I had an out-of-body experience. I was sleeping on the couch, and I saw myself walking towards myself. That showed me that the image that was standing next to me a few months before was never me. The open rebuke that I went through, I should have never gone through, because the older person that I trusted in the church was wrong about what she thought. And that is why when I talk or when I encourage people, I let them know that it has to do with an intimate relationship with God. It has to be personal, because the people around you will try to destroy you before you get to your purpose. And that's why when you hear me talking, I'm always talking about knowing the voice of God. When I say know the voice of God, I am saying not just knowing his voice audibly, but knowing God to the point where you know that his purpose for your life is good and not evil. You know that he wants you to prosper and not fail. And so when you hear things of people imitating the voice of God, then you will understand that, wait a minute, God wouldn't tell me to do that because there isn't something else in plan. There isn't anything else knowing the voice of God goes to knowing that God has something great in store for you. And therefore, when he says, my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow, it's true. Because not only knowing his voice, we know his heart. And so with going through that open rebuke, with God showing me that who I really was, and then me asking him, can I do what I see the people in church doing and still come to heaven? And his answer is no. And I realized that's the reason why he said no, because of what I had went through a few months ago. No, you can't act and pretend to be something that you're not, expecting to get into heaven. And not even you, everybody has life struggles. Us overcoming our struggles is what will help us down the road, not bending or falling when we come against trials and tribulations, but standing strong in our faith, knowing that it's not about God rescuing me. It's about me having the mindset to understand what I need to rescue myself. And that's why I talk to you guys about making this relationship intimate, because church is only meant to introduce you to God. It's your responsibility to want your relationship to mature and to grow to whatever level of expectation you know, or even the level of expectation you don't know. That's your responsibility. And I want to encourage you to get to know God beyond the level of what you know into what you don't know. And that is my message for today. Ask God to show you what you don't know, or what you don't know to ask that you want to know. You guys have a great day.